Hello again, everyone. This is Rock the Bar, here as always, seeking the truth. My video topic for today will be discussing the pagan origins of birthdays. Now, I'm going to start this off by reading a quote from the Satanic Bible, written by the founder of the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey. This is what he has to say regarding birthdays. The highest of all holidays in the Satanic religion is the date of one's own birthday. This is in direct contradiction to the holy of holy days of all other religions, which deify a particular god who has been created in an anthropomorphic form of their own image, thereby showing that the ego is not really buried. The Satanist feels, why not really be honest? If you're going to create a god in your own image, why not create that god as yourself? Every man is a god if he chooses to recognize himself as one. So, the Satanist celebrates his own birthday as the most important holiday of the year, even higher than Wolpersnacht and Halloween. Now, Hebrews in the Bible nor any early Christian ever celebrated birthdays. History shows us that none of them ever celebrated a festival or held a feast on the day of their own birth or even the birth of their own children. Only pagans celebrated birthdays. Only 2 times in the Bible do we even see a reference to anyone having a birthday celebration. In the Old Testament, the Pharaoh, or king of Egypt, celebrated the day of his birth with a festival. In the New Testament, so did Herod, the Edomite that ruled over the Jews in Judea. In both of these cases, they was marked by bloodshed. The first one I'm going to read is from the book of Genesis, chapter 40, verses 18 through 22, and it reads, And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up the head off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree, and the birds shall eat thy flesh from thee off. And it came to pass the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants. And he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again. And he gave the cup unto Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted. So, notice the only example of a birthday being celebrated in the Old Testament was being observed by a pagan Egyptian pharaoh, not a man of righteousness that followed the Most High. Now, in the New Testament, Herod was notorious for his wickedness. He was also a pagan and celebrated birthdays. I'm going to read from the book of Matthew, chapter 14, verses 6 through 11. It reads, But when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodes danced before them, and pleased Herod. Whereupon he promised with an oath to give her whatsoever she would ask. And she, being instructed of her mother, said, Give me here John the Baptist's head in a charger. And the king was sorry. Nevertheless, for the oath's sake, and them which sat with him at meat, he commanded it be given her. And he sent and beheaded John in the prison. And his head was brought in a charger, and given to the damsel, and she brought it to her mother. So here we see part of the entertainment at Herod's birthday party included a very erotic dancer, similar to a modern day lap dance or striptease. Herod was so seduced by the young female dancer, he was willing to give her anything that she asked for. Then here again, at a pagan birthday party, someone was killed. This time it was the Most High's greatest one of the Most High's greatest servants, John the Baptist. Hebrews didn't even celebrate Christ's birth because they considered the celebration of anyone's birth to be a pagan custom. As servants of the Most High, we're supposed to be humble. We're supposed to humble ourselves and not be prideful or boastful. We should put away our egos and self-centeredness. Birthdays generally tend to have the opposite effect. They focus the attention on the birthday person, glorifying them. This in turn boosts the ego of the birthday person and gives them a sense of entitlement. The center of all birthdays derives from the spirit of self-worship, which is basically a form of Satanism, and people treating themselves as gods. No man should be praised. All glory and praise should be reserved for the Most High. The typical birthday party is therefore one of the many deceptions of the devil, made to look attractive and nice on the outside, but its origins are unholy and wicked. Birthday celebrations are actually rooted in paganism. The ancient civilizations of Egypt, Persia, Greece, and Rome traditionally celebrated the birthdays of gods, kings, and nobles. The keeping of birthdays was important in ancient times, particularly because the art of astrology was directly linked to the date of one's birth. Pagans used the art of astrology for the purpose of casting spells, fortune telling, and reading horoscopes. The actual word for astrology in the Hebrew language literally means divining the heavens. Divination is the act of foretelling future events or for revealing secret knowledge by means of signs or omens or other supernatural forces. These are all things in which we are commanded to stay away from. I'm going to read from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 18, verses 9 through 12. It reads, When thou art come into the land which the Most High thy power giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. Because of these abominations, the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee. I'm also going to read from the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 26. It reads, Ye shall not eat anything with the blood, neither shall ye use enchantment, nor observer of times. So there are two verses that tell us not to use an observer of times, who today we would call an astrologer. Now, here's a verse that tells us what happens to those that do. I'm going to read from the book of 2 Kings, chapter 21, verse 6. It reads, And he made his son pass through the fire, and observed times, and used enchantments, and dealt with familiar spirits and wizards. He wrought much wickedness in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. So having anything to do with astrology is considered wicked and makes the Most High angry. So knowing that, celebrating birthdays ties directly into things that the Most High hates. This is something that we as Hebrews should avoid. Even the act of baking a cake and making a wish is a pagan tradition that links to the rituals performed in witchcraft. Pagans believe that once you blew the fire from the candle, pagans believe that once you blow the fire out from the candle on top of the cake, that the smoke would carry their wishes up to their God. When the birthday participant makes a wish, they are essentially praying to a deity. That was a form of idolatry, and it is not pleasing in the eyes of the Most High. Now, obviously, there's a lot more information out there that you can look up and research on your own in regards to birthdays and the traditions and also the origins. But this was just a short video. I believe there is another video on my playlist that goes into more detail. But as always, I suggest people do their own research, and you don't have to take my word for it. But if you like this information or you found it somewhat useful, feel free to hit like or leave me a comment or go ahead and subscribe to my page. But no matter what you do, remember to always seek the truth and keep searching. Shalom.